Singapore, the dream you imagined, might be further from reality than you think. What Lee Kuan Yew did in building the nation of Singapore was to transform Singapore from a country that was seen as having no future into the Singapore we know today, a financial hub of Asia. This achievement should be called an economic miracle for a country, one that should have brought prosperity to Singapore, especially to younger Singaporeans. But things didn't go as planned. The price of this miracle has actually burdened the younger generation in Singapore. The belief that hard work meant the system wouldn't abandon you, that everyone would have a home, or that education was the ladder for social mobility might not be true anymore, because Singapore's success in building such a strict system has actually become a problem that's closing in and putting pressure on the younger generation. There's no room to be weak, no space to cry, no allowance for mistakes at all. Everything has to be accomplished exactly according to the rules and systems that have already been set, because a single mistake means Support Singapore Information, Episode 2 from the Singapore Trilogy on the Psy Money Monster channel by scanning this QR code. Or if you want to support the Psy Money Monster channel, it's super easy. Just leave a comment to chat, hit like, share, or save it to watch later. But what I'd really love is for you to hit subscribe. If you've already subscribed, no need to do it again. Just once is enough. That way, when I upload the next video, we'll get to see each other again. Sound good? Thank you. The latest national survey shows that 44% of Singaporeans under the age of 35 are worried that they won't have enough money to buy a house, start a family, or ever achieve what's considered true wealth. These days, a lot of Singaporeans are starting to question whether the so-called Singapore dream is still real, or if it's just an old idea from the previous generation. Hearing this, I feel, really? Singapore? Why are people unhappy there? It has one of the highest GDPs per capita in the world, ranked 9th actually. It's over $94,000. That's nearly 3 million baht per person per year. Wait, so that's still not enough to be rich or buy a house? Plus, Singapore is Asia's financial hub. Many global giants are based there. In Singapore, if you look up, all you see are shiny glass skyscrapers everywhere. Singapore's really good at attracting foreign money. Foreign direct investment, FDI, in Singapore, just in the first 9 months of last year, reached $35 billion. And from the past up until now, it just keeps increasing and increasing. So it's kind of surprising that people in Singapore are complaining, saying, hey, I can't afford to buy a house. If you want to really understand this episode deeply, I recommend you go watch the previous episode about Singapore first. In the previous episode, we talked about how Lee Kuan Yew fought hard to build Singapore, what he created, what problems he aimed to solve, and what outcomes he hoped for. So, did the results turn out the way Lee Kuan Yew wanted? Yes, they did. It was a success. But after that, as the system kept running, things didn't always go exactly as planned. One thing that Lee Kuan Yew established for the people of Singapore was making it possible for everyone to own a home, along with building. He created the Housing and Development Board, or HDB, which relocated hundreds of thousands of Singaporeans from the slums into these beautiful apartments. For the first batch of residents, 80% bought their units under a 99-year leasehold contract. After 99 years, the property reverts back to the state. When people first bought these HDB units, the prices weren't expensive, about 8,000 Singapore dollars per unit. If you convert that, it was around 2,600 US dollars at the exchange rate back then. As for the rooms they received, they weren't big units, just 2-bedroom apartments, about 65 square meters or around 700 square feet. But that 8,000 Singapore dollar price back then, by 2025, the price of most HDB flats has shot up to 650,000 Singapore dollars. If you convert that to Thai baht, a 2-bedroom flat is about 15 million baht. Super expensive. So I went to check out the HDB resale website in Singapore, and I actually found some units. Some of them were even over $1 million. These are just 2-bedroom flats, government-built public housing, going for about 30 million baht. That's crazy. You might ask, isn't the government still building new HDBs? The government is still building them, but the new supply can't keep up with the growing demand. So married couples who want their own place have to buy resale flats. That's why people buy HDBs. And after just 5 years, which is the minimum period you have to live there, right? Then they sell it on the resale market. Now the price won't have any government subsidies anymore, and it becomes a price driven purely by supply and demand. That's why it's so expensive. And because HDBs are the most accessible or the most affordable housing in Singapore, when even those are this expensive, it pushes the younger generation of Singaporeans into the first trap, the housing debt trap. If you want to have your own place right away and don't want to wait for new HDBs to be built, you have to buy on the resale market, which right now, the average price for a 2-room flat is about 15 million baht. According to Singaporean law, you need a minimum down payment of 10%. The mortgage payments are usually spread over 25 to 30 years, which means you'll be paying around 60,000 to 70,000 baht per month for 25 to 30 years. That means most of your income from working goes toward paying off your house, paying off your mortgage debt. And that means no matter what happens to you, whether it's health issues, accidents, or economic downturns, the burden you'll definitely have to pay for the rest of your life is this debt of 60,000 to 70,000 baht per month. That's become one of the shackles that lock Singapore's younger generation in place. They don't dare change jobs, don't dare take risks, don't dare to think of anything new. And let me emphasize again, the 15 million to 30 million baht for a 2-room flat I mentioned, that's for HDB, the public housing built by the government, the basic housing for Singaporeans. It's that expensive. Expensive housing and mortgage debt are the first punch that hits the younger generation in Singapore. But there's a second punch that's just as strong, the cost of living in Singapore. The cost of living in Singapore is extremely high. Right now, it's ranked as the 4th most expensive in the world. Why is that? Because Singapore's structure is that of a small island with almost no natural resources at all. So everything in Singapore has to be imported. And if everything has to be imported, that means whenever there's global inflation and prices go up elsewhere, they rise even more in Singapore because you have to add import and shipping costs on top of everything. The prices of goods and products in Singapore have shot up dramatically, especially recently after COVID. During the time when major powers, whether it's the US, Europe, or others, implemented quantitative easing to stimulate their economies by printing more money, as soon as they printed money, inflation followed, right? And since Singapore imports everything, from food to energy, everything is quite expensive. When shopping, the things you need for daily life cost more. Beyond homes and food, many graduates want a car. Most know Singaporean cars are pricey, but you might not realize just how much. For example, take a regular car like a Toyota Corolla, for instance. It shouldn't cost that much. It should be affordable, right? But a Toyota Corolla in Singapore costs 3 million baht. That's the price of a Benz in Thailand. It's become something young professionals can't even dream of owning. And the next thing Gen Y like us face, just like me, is being the sandwich generation. We have to care for aging parents and our kids. With the high cost of living, it's even harder for Singaporeans. They have to become an even more extreme version of the sandwich generation. Everything they have to carry is much heavier than what we deal with. So when you add everything up, even though Singaporeans have high wages or a high average GDP per capita, ranked 9th in the world in fact, when you consider the cost of living, housing debt, car debt, and the extra burdens, Singaporeans aren't really comfortable, and it's hard for them to get rich. In Singapore, there's a Singlish saying called Kiasu, which comes from Hokkien and means afraid to lose. Kiasu isn't just a word, it's an entire mindset of being extremely afraid of making mistakes. And what comes with this extreme fear? It leads Singaporeans to accept having fewer days off, working later hours, taking on more side jobs, putting up with more toxic bosses, and absolutely refusing to let their lives go off track. Because if something goes wrong, what will happen to the house they're still paying off? The latest surveys show that about 60% of Singaporeans experience burnout, which is the highest rate in Asia. So Singapore has become an environment where ordinary people rarely change jobs or switch careers. They also don't really dare to start their own businesses. The pressure of being born a Singaporean starts from a young age, from the moment you become aware, from the time you enter the education system. Because exam scores in Singapore, starting from the very first test at age 12, it determines which secondary schools you can and cannot attend, and that basically sets the path for your future career. For example, if you want to work for the Singaporean government, you need to have good exam scores from as early as age 16. At 16, honestly, I was still clueless. Even now, as soon as the camera turns off, I'm still a mess. I'm just kidding. So what Singaporean kids have to do is not just pass exams, but excel at them. They can't afford to slip up. And who's raising these kids? Their parents. Growing up in a system where one mistake can have severe consequences, parents end up passing on this intense fear to their children. So yes, in Singapore, the most important thing in the education system is your grades, not life skills. The next issue is a bit of a contradiction in Singapore: military conscription. It's a problem similar to what Thai men face, but Thai men actually have it a bit better because at least there's an element of luck involved. There's the lottery system with black and red cards, so some people get selected and some don't. But in Singapore, every Singaporean man has to serve the nation for 2 years. The time when they have to do this is right after finishing high school at around 18 years old. For us, that's usually the time when we're entering university, starting to experience adult life for the first time, going out, having fun, trying new things, learning new stuff, experimenting, making mistakes. But for Singaporean boys, that's not the case. That's the time when they have to serve the nation, learn discipline, march together, eat together, following the same orders, and maintaining discipline in the ranks. This isn't a bad thing. In fact, it's actually very good because it really reinforces the strong sense of discipline that Singaporeans are known for. However, the result is that Singaporean men at that age end up being 2 years behind their foreign peers. And the next issue is the challenge of having a startup ecosystem in Singapore. As I mentioned earlier, Singaporeans are caught in the trap of wealth. They focus on stability, so they can pay off their home loans or cover the very high cost of living. That's why Singaporeans aren't really willing to take risks or start their own startups. Personally, I really do believe in hard work, because working hard lets us keep up with others. But creativity is the key factor that lets us truly surpass others. I think the Singaporean government realizes this too, which is why they support Singaporeans who are locals to come out and start their own startups so that there will be an ecosystem. The Singaporean government has invested massive resources into the startup ecosystem, over 25 billion Singapore dollars in the past few years. There are support funds, co-investment schemes, and innovation funds available for Singaporeans to build their startups. That's not a small amount at all. It's actually pretty exciting. If a Singaporean wants to start a startup, they can get government support of up to 50,000 Singapore dollars. That's quite a lot, honestly. But it's also not really enough to motivate many Singaporeans to start their own startups. The cost of living in Singapore is high, so wages are high too. The cost to start a business is higher than in other countries, so the $50,000 you get won't last very long. And if it succeeds, that's great. But if it doesn't, which is likely with startups, it's just wasted time. If you lose, the opportunity cost is extremely high. And more importantly, if you leave the workforce, quit your regular job to build your own startup, spend 2 or 3 years on it, and it doesn't work out, can you even get back into the job market? That's a risk too. And when you add up all these risks, it makes the stress level in Singapore really high. So high that Singaporeans don't even want to have kids. That's why the birth rate in Singapore is very low, even lower than in Japan. The fertility rate in Singapore is only 0.97. The fertility rate is the average number of children a woman has. If the birth rate is low, it means there will be a severe labor shortage in the future. And if the workforce shrinks, the tax base also gets smaller, so the government collects less tax, right? This then becomes an even heavier burden for the younger generation, who will have to pay more taxes to support the elderly. It also means that Singapore will be at risk of having to rely more on foreign labor. And in the end, Singapore thinks that job security is extremely important, especially now in the era where AI is on the rise. Everyone knows that truly secure jobs barely exist anymore. But some people might say, well, maybe Singapore isn't in that much trouble because Singapore is a country where a lot of ultra-rich billionaires have migrated to live. That should help the country have more money circulating and things should get better. But the thing is, these ultra-wealthy individuals, the influx of these ultra-rich who have migrated to Singapore has actually caused a ripple effect, making everything more luxurious and trickling down, which makes everything even more expensive. Life was already tough for the locals, but now it's even harder, especially with the extremely high level of social inequality. And this will be the topic of the final episode in the Singapore trilogy. Just how high a price does Singapore have to pay to be a paradise for the ultra-rich? Make sure to hit subscribe.